incentive of the ambitious. I would caution against extremes in hard work, in patriotism, in moral conduct. In other words, why would the devil like to keep right on doing what he's doing?
Gentlemen, we are here on BasedCast episode 65. We are ready to go. We are talking about constitutional crisis. There's a civic illiteracy in America, and there's a huge threat in the United States. But we're here, and I just want to share with you what Baseboys Media is all about. We are pro-America, anti-globalist media group that wants to expose political and corporate corruption. And really just, this political and corporate corruption takes away the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness of we the people. So escape the matrix and let's win the culture war together with Baseboys Media. I'm excited to be here today, Micah. Thanks for having me here.
Oh, glad to have you here, man. I know. Glad to be back in the studio. We're in Thanksgiving week. I think it's a great time to look back and kind of start seeing what America is about and actually look at it through the lens of what our Constitution actually means. Why are we having a constitutional crisis? Have people forgotten the morals, the values, the ethics, the whole idea of what America is? And I think that's part of the reason why we have a constitutional crisis, because people don't actually even know our history of Thanksgiving. People don't know our history of America. People don't know why we're set up the way we are. How many people know about how many amendments we have, or how many guaranteed rights, not given by the government, but given by God to the American people? Do people know?
Well, how many people know where Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift had their last date?
Everyone.
How many people know about, the latest celebrities, shenanigans in Hollywood? Like, who cares? I mean, if you want to watch that, sure, by all means, you have the freedom to do so. But we're at a perilous point as Americans. When you get distracted from the real world, that's when tyranny rears its ugly head. And I think that's where we're at. And we've been here for a long time. But they want you to live in comfort. Tyranny is not what it used to be. Tyranny gives you comfort now. It's not so much of we're going to make your life miserable anymore. The corporations and the big government, they want you to be comfortable so you don't revolt.
That is a really interesting thesis. I like that, because in a lot of ways they do try to steal from you while you're doped up on dopamine. They try to take from you all the rights, all the things you have as an American while you're watching Star Wars. They're robbing you blind, taxing you into oblivion while you're geeking out about the next Marvel movie that just came out. Americans need to wake up and say, hey, I need to stop being asleep. I need to stop being drugged up on everything that feels good. I need to put the Cheetos down, and I need to actually work on myself and work on my community.
Well, we say all the time, it's sell or be sold in this world, and most people are just simply order takers, and they're sold either a fake dream, or they're sold something that really isn't a higher power. And that's what we want to do, is help influence and help people break from the matrix and create sustainable culture. So I'm glad you're here today. It's BasedCast 65. We are on the eve of Thanksgiving. Micah, Thanksgiving is a good holiday. You like it?
I do. I love it.
Awesome, man. Well, I hope you guys can get to eat a lot of turkey tomorrow, and let's get into this awesome show today. Right, ladies and gentlemen, BasedCast again. I want to address something here real quick. YouTube, I'm watching you. Now, I don't know if it's a technical glitch. I could be getting too ahead of myself, but we had a stream the other day, and we were talking about a certain insurrection. And this insurrection part was completely like clipped out. Like it was towards the end of our segment, and we're talking about insurrection. And basically, the video was cut 20 minutes short. Now, I don't know if it's a technical glitch, but we streamed to Twitter and Rumble successfully, fully. But YouTube, you think maybe YouTube took it down? Do you think they're censoring us?
You sound a little bit like a conspiracy theorist over there, Zane. Are you saying that our big tech corporations don't want people to be aware of what's going on? I think it's all just conspiracy. Just a glitch.
Forgot my tinfoil hat today, sir.
I don't see it as just a coincidence. We've seen Facebook, we've seen Google, we've seen YouTube, subset of Google, take down so many of people's content because it is a breach of terms of service. And I do think that awakening people and telling people what was really going on, sharing people our actual history of what actually happened on January 6th is not in their narrative, so they have to clip it because they don't want that information getting out there. There is no coincidence when, oh, I'm so sorry that we just banned Steven Crowder for the 100th time. Oh, Alex Jones got kicked off of everything? Wild, how'd that happen? Andrew Tate, he got permabanned from every single thing all at once. Kanye, oh wow, how did he get debanked? There is no coincidence when censorship happens. If it was maybe one out of every single person, yeah, I could say a glitch. But when you talk about a spicy issue and then the powers that be clip your video and only share the parts that aren't as salacious as others, that's where you start saying, there's something wrong with this. And we've seen over the past 5 years, 6 years, even if you want to go 7 years, all the ways that they have deplatformed, banned, silenced people, pulled back the throttle on their freedom of speech and their access.
Yeah, and I think that's what's pushing us closer to a constitutional crisis. We don't even see the First Amendment properly being observed by these big tech companies. They clearly don't. They clearly want to protect a certain narrative and protect, obviously financial interest and, other agendas and whatnot. And that's where we have to fight. Freedom is not free, and you always have to continue to fight against the simple as it is. It's tyranny. But that leads us to this article. We found this article here. It's really great. It is by John Whitehead's commentary. And, oh, yay. This happens every single day, folks. I am not sure. I don't even edit it. And it just does that, so you can laugh at me all you want. I guess it's just going to happen to us. If it weren't for Micah, I would have just kept going. Oh, but there we are. So we've got this article here from the Rutherford Institute. It's, John Whitehead's commentary on it. Now we're just going to cover a couple things that he talks about in this that are really, really interesting. So as we see here in this excerpt right here, as Morris Berman points out in the Book of Dark Ages America, 70% of American adults cannot name their senators or congressmen. More than half don't know the actual number of senators. And nearly a quarter cannot name a single right guaranteed by the First Amendment. 63% cannot name the three branches of government. What are they, Micah? Don't be the 63%.
No, here we go.
Judicial,
Executive,
legislative, and executive.
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, there's that. Other studies reveal that other studies reveal that uninformed or undecided voters often vote for the candidate whose name and packaging are the most powerful. Color is pretty popular, he says there. But another thing, too, is, a lot of people vote just solely on weed and abortion. Or single-issue voters, I think that's a huge thing. But the fact that these people don't even know what's going on, what do you think's distracting them? I know we said Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, but what are some other things that distract people in life?
Bread and circus. Give people their Cheetos and give people the Kardashians, and that's what distracts them. Who is watching the January 6th trials? Well, not the people who should be, not the people who were affected. Who is keeping an eye on the taxation legislation that's going through? Not as many people who should be. Who's keeping an eye on the fact that our government is basically a den of thieves? Who's watching that Hunter Biden's taking so much money from different countries? And not as many people as you'd think. And I think that's a huge problem because you have people voting in America who don't actually know what's going on. They don't know they don't know their senators. They don't know their congressmen. Like, for example, most people, if I ask people right outside today, who's your Congress representative, or who's even the governor of the state that you live in, I'll take it even further. Who's the Secretary of State right now of America, or even who's the vice president? I don't think the majority of people outside right now would know. People don't actually know the people who represent them. They don't know how their government works, and that's scary. The reason why that's so scary is because our government is over top of us. And if you don't know who you're voting for and what they stand for, that is how tyranny can get through the gates. That is exactly how they can take away your freedom, because who's actually representing me? I don't know. I just voted for blue. I just voted for red. I just voted for weed. I just voted for more abortion. And you look at it and go, you don't know any of the policies for the people you voted for. You just know that they like weed, and so you voted for them. You didn't vet any of their ideas?
How does that move the betterment of the country as for all of us as a whole? And I think a lot of people are selfish when it comes to politics. They're like, most people I say, be like, oh, I don't care about politics. It's polarizing. It's negative. I don't want to think about it. But honestly, anything worth having isn't come easy. Like like I said earlier in the show, beginning of the show, freedom is not free. You're always going to have to continue to fight it, because you're going to have oppressive, unlawful people come along and try to take away your rights. You pull open a history book, you'll see that. Like, every government has always had a tyrannical rule. And then we have such a unique doctrine in the United States that protects us. And, that's what we really have to restore and get people focused. So my question to the audience, to you, Micah, is how do we get people focused on what's important? I'm not saying you got to go run for political office. I'm not saying you got to get active and become an activist or start a really cool show like BasedCast. What can someone do? Or what can we do?
I think the first thing is people talking. So that's one of the reasons why we exist is to talk about.
Right wants equal opportunity, and that's how it should be. If you focus on the economics and everyone has equal opportunity, that's where we thrive. And one thing too is that really bothers me, and not even our politicians touch on this, but the fact that we're owned by a private banking system. Now, the Federal Reserve is privately owned. I know the name might confuse you. It says federal. It's a reserve. It's not really a Federal Reserve, not by any means. But really, we're just seeing the tarnishing of the dollar. I wanted to read this from MakeMoneyGreatAgain.org. So before 1971, the federal minimum wage was $1.60 per hour, or 1.42 grams gold per hour. By 1985, the minimum wage was $3.35 per hour, but only 0.32 gold grams per hour. That's a pretty large margin there, devaluing the dollar, baby. But guess what it is today? The federal minimum wage is $7.25, but that's just 0.19 gold grams in purchasing power. So the wages have increased, but the dollar is going down. That's amazing. Not amazing. That's frightening.
One of the things I find the most interesting about the Federal Reserve is, did you know that, because I believe it's 13, is it 13 or is it 12 or 13 banks that run the Federal Reserve? I think it was 13.
I think it's 13.
13 banks. And so there's oftentimes an argument where people say, no, it actually is run by government officials who are running the organization. You can go like, yes, I know Jerome Powell was appointed by Donald Trump and by Biden, but the problem is the banks own the shares of the Federal Reserve. And so that's one of the most interesting things. Yes, some of the people there might be appointed by our government, but the ownership and the shares of the Federal Reserve is all privately owned by 13 different banks who all earn dividends on the debt. There's an incentive for the Federal Reserve to print as much money as possible, because then the banks that own it and are able to lend out the free money all then make more on that. So they have created an incentive to print as much money as possible, because it makes everyone in that banking circle so much more wealthy because of it.
Yeah, what do we see? The most massive transfer of wealth in 2020 from up to the higher classes, and like $4 and $5 were made in the last, 3 or 4 years, which is, it's insane to think that that's a thing. But another point from this great article we have from John Whitehead's commentary is, unfortunately, the American people have existed in a technology-laden and entertainment-fueled perpetual state of cluelessness for so long that civil illiteracy has become the new normal of citizenry. Cannot talk this morning. Normal for the citizenry. I don't think I've ever used that word, but it just came out. But seriously, we are so consumed by social media. You ask a young kid what they want to be today, they want to be an influencer. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of money to be made on the internet. There's a lot of things and opportunities you can do using social media. But at the end of the day, we need people to do the hard work that's necessary to move the country forward, because all the jobs out there that people don't want to do are what is necessary to keep the country moving forward. Like, yeah, sure, you can go sell something online, but it's not going to be extremely beneficial to you. And then you're also distracted. I mean, what's the low information content? Like, have you ever been on TikTok and like scrolled through some of the mind-numbing content? No. Well, it's terrible. I've seen some of my younger cousins on it, even older cousins than me, and it's like, what are you watching? Like, it's like, do what you want to do by all means, but it's like, it just numbs the mind down. And then it's also propaganda too, because we see the big tech censorship. They don't care about your First Amendment right. So then they just push all the content that we really shouldn't be watching when there's something else going on over here. And it's a massive distraction. And that's what we're put into, is a perpetual state of cluelessness when it comes to civics.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest. I've never really been on TikTok. I've never really scrolled through to see what's actually on there. But from everything that I have heard, and like from my own, just kind of looking into what TikTok is, or even what Facebook, because everyone now has Reels, everyone now has short form information. I do think that in many ways it is a weapon used against the people to shorten their attention span, because how many people can sit through a lecture? How many people can sit through a debate? How many people can share ideas back and forth if it's not in 20-second short form content with a whole bunch of jump cuts and fun sound effects in the background? That is a huge problem, and I do think that in many ways it is our social media not just is detrimental to our mind, but it is an information weapon used against the American people to get them dumb. To make them less intelligent, as well as strip away some of their rights, strip away different things, because they're unaware of what they actually are as Americans. They're unaware, they are unable to think even. And not just that, we've had this discussion before on our show where we talk about what does the World Economic Forum want with Harari. I have the hardest time saying his name. You've all Noah Harari. Whoever controls the data controls the world. Our phone is an information siphon. It sucks so much information from you. I was talking to a friend of mine who is a software engineer, and he was telling me that most of my internet data, most of my internet isn't actually from me like going and searching things. It's information being sent back. And so he was telling me, if you want your phone to run faster, delete Facebook, delete Google, delete YouTube, delete all the things on your phone, because he was saying out of the 40% of the internet that's used for your own watching of YouTube or watching of TikTok or whatever it may be, 60% of information is actually going back to them. Most of your phone's data is used to collect data from you, follow your biometrics, see exactly what you're looking at, capture your cookies, take photos of you when you're not paying attention, see your face when you see something, and it constantly is taking videos. And your phone is constantly uploading information to online. This is something that I want people to do. If you actually want to, pull out your phone, go to your settings, see how much internet each app is used, and you'll be like, why did this app, I don't even use it, use 10 gigabytes of information or 10 gigabytes of data? because it's all used to siphon information from the American people and send it off to whoever is using our data.
Yeah, and it's hard to escape the system because we need to use these tools to promote the free systems that we're proposing. I mean, it's almost impossible to pass a message nowadays without social media, without any of the big tech. And there's certain platforms that are better than others to do this, and that's solely why we're on Rumble mostly. I believe we get shadow banned on YouTube. We don't pay any ads on this. We're a new podcasting company, or a new media group, I should say. And Rumble has treated us really well. I don't know what it is. It's just more of our audience is on Rumble probably. But like you go to YouTube, I mean, we get shadow banned. We get like 1 view, 2 views. I mean, we're averaging like 100 plus views on Rumble in just a couple of months. So like, I mean, that's a good thing to see. But you know, it's hard to break away from those platforms because they do some good, but for the most part, they don't really care about your human rights. So, an interesting fact about this article is, in fact, most immigrants who aspire to become citizens know more about national civics than native-born Americans. A survey from Axios indicates that a majority of every state but Vermont would fail a test of U.S. citizenship questions. So, man, that's sad that more immigrants. Do you think it's those military-age males that are coming over here, or is it unlawfully, or do you think it's the 10 million we've had in the last 3 years, or do you think it's the actual real people that have the American dream that come over here legally and lawfully?
I think that the legal and lawful people are the ones who know more about the civics of America, how it operates, because they have to learn it in order to pass their citizenship test. I don't believe that the refugee from Somalia is really studying the American way of life. They may study the way that our social welfare programs work. They may know about that. They also may know about how to get their Obama phone and all the different free subsidies that the government is able to give out. But I'm not sure if they really know too much about how our government operates, who is the commander-in-chief, who's in the Senate, who's in Congress, who's in the who are chief justices. I don't think they know that. I do believe that the people who are actually studying to become American citizens have the ability to know more because they study more and they have to learn it, which is something that the American people don't have to learn, oddly enough.
Well, to close it out on that topic, we just want to help promote the idea of people breaking away from the matrix, as we say all the time. And I use that term, it's more of a metaphor when I say that. I don't think there's an actual Neo in the Matrix. But people have to focus on what matters and continue to, fight the things that hold us back, especially economically. I think that's one thing that touches everybody, whether you're on the left or the right. We don't really care about your politics. Some people have called this a polarizing channel, but really we're just pro-America, pro-human, and we want everyone to thrive.
Diversity. So if you have a multitude of people from a whole bunch of different backgrounds, with if you have everyone, you have Indian immigrants, you have every single group represented. Why is that better for like a corporation or for an entity? When you have no cohesive culture, it's harder to unify, and when you can't unify as a people group, it makes it easier for them to control you. Because if you have this group over here, this group over here, this group over here, all with different cultural backgrounds, how are they supposed to join together and fight back against tyranny when they can't get along with each other, or when it's so diverse that the people aren't able to make any agreements on what's actually going on? We see the same thing. I'm going to make a parallel to this to Amazon. Why does Amazon say diversity is our strength? It's not the people's strength, it's the corporation's strength, because it's harder to unionize. It's harder to make agreements with when Jose doesn't speak any English and he's working right next to you. That's one of the biggest problems that we have, and that's one of the reasons why they push forced diversity on us so much, is because it is a system of control, because we cannot then unify as a people group against the NSA. They went from spying on the American people, which they still do, to forcing diversity on us strange jump, but I think if you start putting the dots together and start almost making a picture, you can kind of say, okay, this makes sense. They went from spying to pushing this ideology of control.
That's the problem I have with higher education, because it's too much thought. I show up, go to work, go home. It's super simple. I think everyone, like I said, they're changing the definition of whiteness. So like I said, it's not about color. It's a social construct. So this is what they say: a broad social construct that embraces the white culture, history, ideology, radicalization, expressions, experiences, emotions, and behavior, and reaps material, political, economic, and structural benefits for those that socially deemed white. So what do you make of that, Micah?
I think it's sad when our government goes after not just one group, but makes it their mission to destroy it. They're going after white Christian men more than anything else. And I think there's a lot of heavy implications there that I don't really want to get into. But why aren't they going after the real problem in America? Mass immigration. In their context,
illegal immigration.
Mass
Change
illegal.
your words.
Mass.
We like immigration, not illegal immigration.
Why are they going after? Why aren't they going after massive illegal immigration so they can push this on us? Because then, once you have 10 million people from all over the world who don't speak English, who haven't taken civics, who haven't taken all of who don't hold the American ideology, they're then able to push this onto us. And white Christian men all have a couple things in common. We believe in God, we believe in freedom, we believe in liberty. That is too big of a threat to them, so let's bring in every single Muslim. Let's bring in every single Hindu. Let's bring in every single Confucius person, or whatever they believe. Let's bring in every other religion and every other culture, so that there can't be a Christian union of people saying, actually, our belief system, our ideology, our Christianity states that you don't get to have control over me, and I don't report only to the government. Why did Soviet Union, Russia, and why did Pol Pot, why did Mao, why did all of these dictators have to strip religion, like a one unifying religion? Okay, here's even a better one. Why did Zelensky just make Orthodox churches illegal in his country? Because religion, especially Christianity, is a huge threat to their ideology, because our ideology states that people are created in God's image. Everyone is made in the image and likeness of God. And then they don't hold this diversity, equity, and inclusion manuscript as their holy literature.
Yeah. Hit the nail on the head there, man. And you know, what really bothers me is the fact that I'm sure there's national security threats that are actually, you know, important. Mike Waltz, rapper out of Florida, is calling the document insane, and you know, it's ridiculous that the agency's lack of national security priorities. I think there's other priorities, like you just said. Our intelligence agencies are three-letter agencies. The alphabet soup that runs this country doesn't have the interest of the American people. It's like a corporate control. And once you start to analyze it more, you kind of see there's more of a global threat coming into in America, destroying nationalism. And we got to make nationalism great again. And it's what we need to be a strong, cohesive nation. I mean, you look at any country that's ever been extremely successful, they embrace nationalism. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, they have pride in their country. Being called a Christian nationalist is almost like being called the worst thing in the world. They have demonized, and dare I say even bastardized, that term. They have completely not allowed us to actually unify, and they're trying to strip us of our freedoms. Real quick, before we go to our next story, who's the demographic of people who they said were the oppressed? Do you have that pulled up? Because I find that really interesting when they start naming off the groups of people who are affected by affected and need to be promoted by DEI, equity, inclusion,
I don't have any notes on that, but I can tell you it's probably going to be the LGBT community. It's going to be Latinx community. Gotta love the Latinx.
I love the Latinx.
Yeah. Black, people of color, anybody that's not the white, white Christians, privileged people, heterosexual people. Basically, what America has always been is a sustainable culture society. It's not even that's what I think they're saying is the oppression, and we see it from what BLM says and all these other organizations.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that they attack us so much.
Well, we're under attack, and so is Mike Lindell. He was under attack from the media for a really long time. Man, he goes hard in this video. So if you guys don't know, MyPillow CEO, he's on the forefront of fighting election fraud. The dude actually looks at real election data, pulling Edison data, and he can show you all kinds of what he calls crime spikes. We see these massive spikes for Joe Biden and Democrat people in certain areas, specifically in the national election in 2020 and recently in 2022. He goes through the data and basically shows that what are all these anomalies. They put it together. They're fighting litigation against the voting machines. But let's play this clip real quick. Oh yeah, the internet loves us today, guys. That is why we have to, like you said, Micah, close out all of our social media so things run faster.
Yeah. I did that. Like when I got rid of a whole bunch of different apps off my phone that weren't even running, my phone became substantially faster. Because what they're really doing is just sending the information back to their headquarters, and then it gets shared to the NSA.
Here we go.
Or do you believe in the big picture, the sunlit uplands of John Fredericks?
Well, first of all, Steve, I get to take off my tinfoil hat. That's what that judge said. We're not a conspiracy theory guy anymore. Praise the Lord. 100% John Fredericks. This is a landmark case. We have people down in Georgia. We're all over this, Steve. We have been for a long time. This has been going on for a long time. This is going to expose everything. The judges opened the door that no man can shut, and we're going to go through it. And this is huge, absolutely huge. And everybody, if you heard what John said there, he said, we've got to get rid of the machines, paper ballots, hand counted. And then you heard that they're trying to fight this down there, saying, oh, we have to wait till after the 2024 election because we won't be able to do it in time. Well, the great country of Argentina, I was just texting one of my friends down in Argentina, and they down there, in the primaries, they had problems with their machines, so they got rid of them, and they got rid of them before the general election. 30 million people just voted in the general election. They're going to save their country.
Well, that moves the ball forward for any litigation that's involved with the election fraud, because we really haven't seen any litigation in favor of these plaintiffs that are fighting election fraud so hard. So it's an Obama-appointed judge, Amy Totenberg, had a 135-page ruling saying that the plaintiff are not conspiracy theorists of any variety. So that's pretty good to see that, Obama-appointed judge, most likely going to be more of a liberal, type. And, they're siding with the side of freedom and, freedom of speech. This is great.
It is. Not only is it nice to see that people who have been saying that there's problems with their election are now able to finally speak up and actually get their voice heard, but I am actually really thankful for all the work that Mike Lindell has done. His story is super interesting, going from in the streets to a pillow empire to working with Donald Trump.
He went from crackhead to pillow maker.
Yeah,
overnight.
and then from pillow maker.
Not overnight, but
yeah, I get what you're saying. He went from pillow maker to advisor to the president, and now he's the only one really out there fighting for our elections. He has a really interesting story, and I want to give him thanks for all the work that he's done for America. Ballots, you have to get them. You have to send out for them. They send them to you. You then fill them out, and then you do a drop-off thing. You actually have to reach out to the government. Then the government has to approve you to be an absentee, and then you get your absentee ballot. And then people were trying to say, oh, but we've had absentee ballots for a long time, so why not have universal mail-in voting? And we'll use our records of who's in each house, and we'll send them all out willy-nilly, and how many people are getting ballots that didn't ask for them. That's one of the biggest problems that we have, is universal mail-in vote is the way that you're going to be able to steal an election. It's been proven by Greg Phillips with the 2,000 Mules. We saw that over and over and over again. The 2,000 Mules showed how in Arizona so much fraudulent mailing happened. Donald Trump, I think he only lost by 30,000 votes in Arizona. Do you think that 30,000 votes could have been swung with a couple people doing extra mail-in drop-offs? Yes, that's the easy one. It's obvious to see that 30,000 people in a state that has a couple million people is an easy swing. Easy. Mail-in voting is completely not safe for the American Republic. There's a difference between absentee ballots, which you request, and then the government then sends it to the address that you're requesting, and then you also can't vote again. So I see a need for absentee ballots, but absentee ballots are not the same as universal mail-in votes, and I hate when people conflate those because it's different.
So you're telling me that having a registered voter that has an address to a parking lot is unlawful, and we shouldn't have that?
Wow, that's a good question right there. Maybe we should look into why hundreds of ballots were dropped off at random parking lots and picked up by random people who then were dropped off later.
Yeah, and that's the question is, obviously I think most people can admit that there is voter fraud, but then they spin the narrative that there's not enough voter fraud to overturn an election, and you don't need a lot. You just go to the key battleground states to get the electoral votes, and that's how you can manipulate the system. People think you need massive amount of voter fraud and manipulate the systems in a massive way, and you don't. It's very small time election fraud can make a massive difference, and that's what you see. I mean, one dump of votes can ruin an entire election, and I mean, stolen elections have consequences. And I think it's sad that the mainstream, the Overton window is shifted on this so far to the left when it comes to election integrity. Because what do we see in the 2000 election? What do we see in the 2004 election? What do we see in Stacey Abrams' 2018 election? What do we see in the 2016 election? He's an illegitimate president. We heard that all the damn time. He's an illegitimate president.
Russia hacked the machine.
Russia hacked the machines. Stacey Abrams in 2018 election. This goes back, so the left, the establishment types, they can call out voter fraud all they want. But when us as a populist movement, Mike Lindell goes out there, he's smeared by every single organization. He's smeared, and this is why the First Amendment is so important. Because when tyranny rears its ugly head, the people need to know about it. And you have these corporations censoring it. But the double standard is absolutely ridiculous. We played a 10-minute clip a couple months back, I believe, of the comparison between the Democrats calling out election fraud, but then when we do it, it's like it's a total double standard.
It 100% double standard, and they cannot. Do you remember in 2020 and 2021, whenever you said anything about election fraud, you got kicked off of any single social media platform?
Oh yeah, baby.
That is what we're talking about right here. They're trying to censor your speech. They have control over your speech. And when they're able to steal your voice from you so you can't actually see what they're up to, that's how tyranny is able, as like you said, to rear its ugly head. They wouldn't let you speak. So then what do the American people do? Okay, if the government and the social media platforms and every way we speak is being ignored and banned, then we have to go protest. We have to go somewhere and protest, and that's how January 6th happens, because whether there was or wasn't foul play, that's what happens when the Americans' voices get muffled, when the Americans aren't able to speak and saying, hey, my election, my vote was stolen very clearly. There was a pipe burst in Atlanta, and they kept on voting, but no pipe actually ended up bursting. That's what happens when you have massive election fraud, is the people then feel the need to go out and protest. And so even for the sake of America, and even if you want to go like with the liberal thing, if you want there to not be another January 6th, which was worse than Pearl Harbor, you need to have election integrity and security. Get rid of the machines, use paper ballots, count on one day.
Well, to wrap it all up, the message for today is get involved. Be involved in your country. Be a good countryman. Do something. We're just two young men here. We don't have the most resources, the tools. We're starting to build a media group. We want to build the connections, build the platform that's going to create, courageous discourse that's necessary to fight a corporate narrative that really enslaves you to ridiculous amounts of usury, the massive amounts of interest rates, the massive taxation. We're taxed every which way, and stolen elections. The list goes on. We could call out all kinds of tyrannical moves that the government and the corporations are involved in, and it's our duty as Americans to be involved in civics and understand what's going on. And it really frightens me to see that more people care about, we always, the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce. It's one of my favorite things to revert to because it just blows my mind that people care about it so much. But focus on the things that matter. Focus on things that help our economy and help improve daily lives. Be free. And we ultimately want to create economic mobility for everybody, and that's what the government should be doing. They're in charge of two things.